Hey, Beer Fueled Fantasy family. We're here for another News Shot episode. Today is Saturday, September 23rd, 2017. Or as the day as I'm going to like to call it, the day Trump weighs in. It's been a fun day on Twitter. I've stayed off it mostly myself, but I've been keeping it track of that. I've been on our NFL, just seeing the collective shitstorm that's happened regarding this issue. It's been highly controversial. There's a lot of anger on every side. It's pretty ugly, and it's probably only going to get worse now that the president has weighed in on this topic. So let's quick cover the other two news points I've got first, and then let's get into that mess. On the sad side, Chargers cornerback Jason Verrett is getting surgery. He is done for the year. He's placed on injured reserve. This is going to kind of damper what we hoped was going to be a really good Chargers defense. They still should be good. Ingram and Bosa make a very solid pass rush duo, can get after the quarterback. Casey Hayward is still a really good cornerback, but having Verrett man the other side was really going to make this better. And for Verrett, he's a guy who just cannot stay healthy, even though he's a dominant quarterback when he's out there. So I'm hoping he can get back and get healthy. They really need their second shutdown corner to really make that defense work. And Chargers, sorry, I was kind of hoping you guys would be a playoff dark horse this year, but it's looking pretty ugly so far. So I do wish you the best of luck. Moving on to good news. Jim Caldwell signed a multi-year contract extension. Apparently, this happened over the summer. They just never announced it. So all this talk about Caldwell playing on a last year of his deal, it turns out not to be true. So we'll have Caldwell in the NFC North for at least a few more years. Personally, I'm just hoping Jim Bob Cooter stays around long term because I like saying his name, and he seems to work really, really, really well with Stafford in that offense. Stafford's been a much better player ever since Jim Bob took over. I think it was Lombardi was the previous offensive coordinator before Cooter, and he was just a train wreck. He had to be forced out of there. As soon as he got replaced, that offense has been much, much better for fantasy purposes, so it's always great to see. Let's get on to the fun part. So late last night, Donald Trump was at a rally in Alabama and said, and I'm quoting, "Love to see one of these NFL owners, when somebody disrespects our flag," referring to someone kneeling during the national anthem, to say, "Get that son of a bitch off the field right now." And then he effectively said the lines, "You're fired, you're fired," imitating an owner firing a player for kneeling in front of the flag. Create quite a controversy, a lot of uproar on that. There's been a lot of response from various parts of the NFL, but the one I wanted to specifically highlight was Roger Goodell's. His sounds very similar to most of the other responses you saw from the Players Association, owners, players, things of that nature. Groups of that nature. Goodell's response is, "The NFL and our players are at our best when we help create a sense of unity in our country and our culture. There's no better example than the amazing response from our clubs and players to the terrible natural disasters we've experienced over the last month. Divisive comments like these demonstrate an unfortunate lack of respect for the NFL, our great game, and all of our players, and a failure to understand the overwhelming force of good our clubs and players represent in our communities." This isn't to say that the NFL is perfect. I think Goodell obviously realizes that. Players make mistakes. Players get in trouble off field. You end up with players who do some pretty heinous things. But there's 32 teams. An active roster for an NFL team is 53 players. Doing the math, that's terrible. Certainly can't do math on the fly right now, but from my count, that's a little under 2,000 players total across the league, plus practice squads. That's a lot of people to police. The majority of them do appear to be doing good things. One of the best examples right now is J.J. Watt's current response to Hurricane Harvey, where he raised $37 million, give or take a little bit, for the Houston community after all the damage that they suffered. So there is a lot of good things coming out of the NFL. And this kneeling, it shouldn't be politicized. And I don't mean that in the sense of the NFL being politicized by somebody taking a stand for a cause they believe in, like kneeling for the national anthem. That is politicizing the situation. But this is a different level of politicization when a president weighs in and it comments on it and begins to throw his opinion into the ring of what's going on in this situation. There's a few responses he could have given that would have not caused this to be a major controversy, but didn't choose that option, so now we're here. NFL response appears to be in lockstep. I expect their messaging will continue to be in sync on this. I'm sure Goodell had an emergency meeting with all the owners and basically said, look, we're not going to throw our organization, our players under the bus for this. And that seems to be the response across the board, is that they're going to stand united against what Trump said. And I expect the media coverage tomorrow is just going to be nonstop about this. We're going to hear about it in every single game. There's going to be a lot more kneeling tomorrow and going forward. You're going to see more protests because Trump has basically turned around and shined a giant magnifying glass on this. So we're going to keep hearing about this, which is too bad. I personally support people's right to protest, and that's fine. But I watch this game because I enjoy having fun watching the game of football. I enjoy fantasy football. I love the sport. It's my favorite pastime to watch during the fall. It's one of the things I look forward to year-round when we're not in football season. And now we're going to have this discussion. And most of it's not even going to be about what the players are protesting. It's going to be about the protests themselves. So the entire point is missed. And it ends up just being one giant, one side versus the other, screaming at each other and no one hearing anything. So it's going to be really unfortunate. I'm really sad about it, and this is not how I wanted my Saturday News Shot to go. I just wanted to get into quick couple news pieces, do in and out for you guys, and kind of get you guys ready for a long Sunday tomorrow, where we're all up bright and early to watch Jags Ravens in London, and kind of, celebrate a game taking place overseas, sharing the game with people in London who are excited to see this. But now we get to talk about this. So this is the last time I'm going to talk about it. As always, you can follow us here on the channel at Beerfield Fantasy Football. Like or subscribe if you want to get these news shots Monday through Saturday and keep you posted on what's happening in the NFL. In addition, you can catch us on the podcast Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Most week we've had a few scheduling conflicts this past week and going into next week that we'll have to adjust for. So we'll tweet out or comment on the episode before when those schedules will change. Lastly, if you guys do want to follow us on Twitter, at BeerfieldFF for the show. Individually, I am at Nick Sparts. Dan Thury, who will be here on Tuesdays and Thursdays, is at Thury BFF, THURY BFF. And Christopher Hopper, who is here Mondays and Fridays, is Hop with two P's, HOPP, BFF, if you want to follow him on Twitter. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I'll be back in a little bit here with my In and Out segment. Good luck in week 3, and hopefully I'm not having to talk about this too much more. Later.